With Republicans holding supermajorities in both Oklahoma houses, there's no question Democrats face an uphill battle in getting their legislative priorities enacted into law. How did they do in the recently completed session? Here's eCapitol News Director Shawn Ashley.
When you look at the number of bills signed this year, only about a dozen measures authored by Democrats received the approval of both chambers and the governor. Some of those were minor bills, others were more important, such as the Sexual Assault Victims' Right to Information Act carried by Senator Kay Floyd and Representative Cindy Munson. But in terms of those items on the caucus's agenda, they really didn't make much progress on those items.
Shawn, the governor wrapped up the session's business with two pocket vetoes. What were they, and how many bills did he sign this year?
The two bills that he pocket vetoed, one would have created a task force related to traumatic brain injuries, and the other provided for a sales tax credit for a group that provides clothing to children in the Norman and Noble areas. Overall, the governor signed 583 of the 599 measures that were placed on his desk. He vetoed 12 others, and two took effect without his signature during the legislative session.
Republican Representative Kevin McDougal has raised concerns about death row inmate Richard Glossip. What are they?
Glossip was convicted in 1997 for planning the murder of an Oklahoma City motel owner, not for actually committing the murder. The man who committed the murder testified against Glossip and received life without parole for that testimony, and Glossip subsequently received the death penalty. Richard Glossip has essentially exhausted all of his court appeals, particularly those related to challenging the outcome of the trial itself. So what his attorney hopes will happen, and Representative McDougal hopes, is that an independent group will be able to investigate the crime, and that information could influence the outcome of the clemency recommendation of the Pardon and Parole Board, and then the governor's decision in that case.
Legislative leaders are keeping an eye on the money coming into Oklahoma from the latest round of federal stimulus. Do they have any control over how that money is used?
The answer is both no and yes. Really, no, they don't. But they have formed a joint committee to work with Governor Kevin Stitt on deciding how that money will be spent. The 24-member bipartisan committee will review what agencies want to do and make recommendations to the governor on how that money will be utilized. Also, earlier this year, one of those bills that took effect without the governor's signature prevents agencies from using federal money in such a way that it would incur future state expenses. So they have that control as well.
Shawn, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.